life and legacy, the power of redemption mean to me? So life to me is having like an abundant life with Jesus in our lives, and legacy means that I get to pass that on to my kids. And, you know, you'll hear some of our stories, and some of us, you know, didn't grow up in the best surroundings, or we didn't grow up with Jesus, or, you know, that kind of thing, but God redeemed all of that for us. So, you know, I sometimes think like, you know, do you ever think, do I have what I can to get rid of like my generational baggage?
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, like we don't have it, but God has it.
Yeah.
Thank God that he has it for us. You know, to redeem one of the definitions of redeem is, it means to free from what distresses or harms us. So God redeems us from anything that has distressed or harmed us. You know, I grew up kind of all over the place. My parents got divorced when I was 1.5 years, and I went to live with my dad, and we moved a lot. By the time I was 13, I lived in 2 countries, 4 states, 2 provinces, like a whole bunch of cities. Like, I moved a lot. And then growing up with my dad, it wasn't like a very stable situation. Looking back now, I think he had a lot of like mental health and addictions issues. My family legacy is all kinds of mental health and addiction issues. I have a whole bunch of family that has that kind of stuff in our history and our past. You know, I kind of left everything that was secure, so I grew up in a lot of fear and chaos. It was just not a good way to grow up. And, you know, like I said, I was not secure. I was left alone a lot when I was really young. A lot of times I felt like the parent. It was just, you know, one time I clearly remember, I knew about God. Like, I had family that knew about Jesus and God, but so I knew that he was there. Like, I sometimes wanted a closer relationship, but my dad was not connected with Jesus. But I remember one time, about 7 or 8, and we lived in this house, and I was left alone a lot of times by there, and I can't remember exactly what the circumstance was. We had like a wood-burning stove to keep the house heated, and I had to keep that going when my dad wasn't there, and I think one time it like stopped going and I didn't know what to do, and I was so scared, and it might have been that time, or there was a time where my dad had taught me how to use a handgun to protect myself in case of intruders. Yeah. So I don't know if it was like one of those times, but I just remember feeling so scared and so alone. And I just remember sitting by the window, and I was just crying, and I just cried out to God, and I was like, why, God? Why? And then you fast forward to today. And for my kids, I've got to create a stable environment for them. They don't ever have to worry about being alone. They don't ever have to worry about, you know, not being taken care of. They are celebrated. They are loved. They don't have to live in that fear. They don't have to live in that chaos. And, you know, my kids get to be kids, which to me is just so powerful. But how did this happen? You know, how did I go from that to today? You know, like, it's like a big change, a big jump forward. So basically how that happened was God came into my life. And that happened because, as Tasha said, my mother-in-law taught her sons to love Jesus, right? She taught them to build that relationship with Jesus. And my husband, Jay, he actually invited me to a service, and as we say, you know, the rest is history. So God changed my heart, and he opened the door for a different legacy for my children. So I love Jesus, and I love teaching my kids to love Jesus. You know, God is enough. God is enough to overcome any of our past, any of our history, any of our generational baggage. God is enough. Now I get to teach my kids about Jesus. I get to teach them to have a relationship with Jesus, and I have hope for our future generations. I just want to declare Genesis 17:7 over you today. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you.
Amen.
Thank you, Denni.
So good.